Hey, it's Ed here. Welcome to Ed Talks. And we normally don't cover technical things on Ed Talks. There's plenty of great commentators out there. Bill Russell, John Lynn, Anthony Guerrera. They do a great job covering sort of the technical things that are going on in healthcare. But one thing that did hit my radar, just because also my board responsibilities, is this whole thing on information blocking. So today I have my friend Elbridge Locklear joining us. Welcome, Elbridge, to Ed Talks.
Thanks, Ed. Glad to be here.
So Elbridge is the SVP CIO at Suma Health, and he's a great leader. Some other time, uh, Elbridge, will have you just on a regular sort of non-technical show and talk about leadership and other things that we like a lot. But you and I have known each other now for 3 years probably. So you came to Suma before I did onto the board, but you came as the CIO. Then we had a chance to get to know each other pretty well. We have a lot of friends in common, and it's been a fun couple of years just watching you. The great job you're doing at Suma Health with the great leadership team there, and I just admire what you're doing. I think you're doing a great job. So
Appreciate it. Excited
yeah,
to be here.
and then you're a Marine.
Yeah,
And,
served 5 years in the Marine Corps. 5 years.
appreciate your service to our country, and just a great person. So we're going to jump right into it. Normally we have some other questions, but I think we'll just sort of jump right into the topic of information blocking because it's pretty timely in terms of what happened last week. So we're recording in late December of 2023, and last week the ONC made their big announcements about the final rule, and the penalties are in play now and those sorts of things. So we want to talk about that. But before we get there, I do want to let you talk a little bit about Suma Health and what you're doing. What are one or two things, in the last year or so that you're most proud of that you and your team have accomplished?
Yeah, just I guess real quick. Just since I joined Suma, we were able to make a decision to move to our own EHR and our own instance of that Epic. And that decision was made within 3 or 4 months of me joining Suma. But the big accomplishment is the team was very small at that time, but my team was able to pull off a full-scale Epic implementation in 10 months. But that not only was just your traditional Epic implementation where you typically don't do a blood bank and you typically don't do your Cupid or cardiology implementation at the same time, right? But we did all of that at the same time and did it in 10 months. So that was it's pretty well respected out there. Came out with our Epic Gold Stars 9. And we also got recognized at Chime Healthcare Digital Most Wired level 9 as well. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, you've done, like I was saying at the top, you and your team have done a great job. And, sometimes all you hear about is what's happening at, the academic health systems with the big marketing budgets. But there's a lot of Suma Health out there where a lot of great work is being done, helping the communities that you serve, and really bringing healing and wellness to those communities. And it happens through great leadership, at that more regional level that doesn't get amplified the way it should sometimes, just because, the nature of how marketing works and things like that. But I know that Mid-Ohioans in particular appreciate Suma Health and the health plan, everything that you'll do. So yeah, let's jump into the information blocking. So I was reading this survey by Verato, and they were asking healthcare organizations, how well prepared are you? And only 41% said that they're fully prepared for information blocking, even though the rule is here and live. Did that surprise you at all?
No, at least over the last 4 or 5 years, many organizations have started that effort around information blocking to be intentional about sharing, right? Sharing information with the people that should be getting it, being patients, but also sharing it with providers so they can provide patient care. So that journey has been going on for years now. We knew it was coming, right?
Yeah.
But the big issue is, the cost and expense around creating a common data platform, around data governance, around a single source of truth, around being able to glean insight from a common pool of data standards. That's difficult when you have many systems that are not integrated and they're working in silos. You've got departments that have their head down and they're not necessarily thinking about sharing data in a standard way across the organization. They're really down to where I've got to provide patient care and I need to increase revenue and I need to run my operation. So the IT guys coming in there and saying, hey, I've got this, this, and this. What's the definition of an appointment? Whatever that basic thing may be, and getting everyone to agree what that standard definition is. I can pick on, but
Yeah.
no, I guess with disparity in systems.
Yeah, I saw that, the whole concept of master data management, and I ran into it, years ago when I was a young CIO like yourself, and it wasn't as major of a strategic issue back in the day because we just weren't as technically advanced as we are today to take advantage of all that. But now clearly we must be able to respond to our consumers. And obviously it's not just we're speaking from a hospital perspective. I mean, it's even more important from a vendor perspective, but since we'll just stick to the hospital side primarily. But I recall working with a health system, and I'll be very vague about who they are so no one can triangulate. But it was the same sort of thing you're describing. A lot of siloed systems within a health system, everyone doing the right thing for their particular area, but not thinking across and for the patient. And so when we tried to do some fantastic things for patient-centered care and for really delivering unique patient experiences, it was impossible because we had no clear master data. And so EDmarks might exist in 4 different databases under 4 different naming nomenclatures, and they wouldn't match up. You know how all that happens. And so, especially in larger health systems, it's just the way that they are brought together through M&A, or they came through departmental systems that didn't have, sort of enterprise class platforms. And so it's a real bugaboo. And this is a pretty sizable organization. And I think there's many like them that probably fit into that other side, that 41% that say that they're ready, just because they have so many different systems that they have to manage. What are 1 or 2 obstacles? I mean, we're kind of talking about them already, but 1 or 2 obstacles that keep organizations from moving towards a master data management type of arrangement.
Well, back to your point a few moments ago. So you think about the sources of information. It's Microsoft Excel, where you see that. Well, I'll back up and say this. One comment that is across all organizations that you see now is that everybody's a technologist. So when you go to the finance department, they can give you data, and that data may be a culmination of information from the ERP financial system, but also come from your EHR. Then they drag all of that information to an Excel spreadsheet, run some algorithms, say, hey, here's the information. But again, that source is now from an Excel spreadsheet, right? Because that's insights, that's information you should be collecting. So one of the big obstacles is everybody's a technologist. There's different people that are responsible for data, but they don't have any common standards across the board. And not everybody across the organization knows who's responsible for what and what the actual common definition is. So there's, some of the common things, you use Excel, Access. If you have multiple EHRs, you may have multiple places for that. Then you have third-party systems that aren't necessarily integrated. For example, you have a radiology system, you gather information from it. What if you're actually doing some billing in third party? What if you have joint ventures and you have a different technology there, but you need that common information across the board for patients, for patient records? So that's some of the issues. And then I'd say the second place is data governance. Do you have common data governance and understanding across the board?
Yeah, so that kind of leads to the solutioning. So one thing would be, one recommendation is to have data governance, right? Most organizations don't. I think they're starting to. But yeah, is have some sort of data governance, so that's maybe the first step. What are some other steps? Like if you were advising some organization that wasn't quite ready, what are some other steps in addition to data governance that you think they might want to look at?
I mean, my biggest thing would be, do you understand all the systems and sources of information across the organization? That's a very first start. If you don't know where all of the patient information is, and I'll use patient because we're in healthcare, then how are you supposed to get the data governance right? Who owns what? What is the definition of cost of board? I know we're back to that again. But starting with understanding data and who's responsible for what data, and starting to get to an understanding the definition of that information. I'd say that would be your first one.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, do that survey, understand what's out there, get some data governance, get some standards, and then ultimately you probably need to look for a platform of some sort to bring it all together. Because I don't know that any specific application today has the capability to become a master data management system. They weren't built to do that, so you might have to look externally if you don't have some sort of structure already internally to
That's
handle.
right. There's several master data management platforms that lay out there, but you do need a common platform where you aggregate that information with common definitions, enterprise data warehouse.
Yeah.
Any organization doing that, where you think of Microsoft Azure, think of AWS platform, think Google Cloud, and there's several different things you could be moving towards to get to that.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah. So that's all we really wanted to cover. Sort of, look, if you're not there, if you're one of the outliers from that 41%, you need to take action. There's these different action steps that Elbridge was sharing. I believe in find the right vendor to help you with that. You mentioned a couple, Verato, another one that did that survey. And then you can sort of pull it off, but it still takes leadership. So let's end with a leadership question or two. How do you do that? So you've had to do it, because you've done this whole big in 10 months, big epic implementation, and you have different people. You just finished the IT steering committee. You have different people going different directions. As a leader, how do you, what are one or two things that you try to do to try to get everyone on the same page, go in the same direction?
Yeah, I mean, if I think of leadership, a couple of things that I would think that has been impactful for me, especially over a short period of time, the last few years at Suma, is the day you always want to listen, and this doesn't only mean to the people that report to you, but it means to the community, to your peers, what's important to them. So they need to know that you're listening. Many of us, a lot of times, we think we're listening, but after the first sentence or so, we say, "Well, I already know where they're going," and you stop listening, and you end up losing a lot of value out of the conversation. You can always learn from someone else, right? Any information they're presenting, so you should always listen. That is one big piece. And then I'd say um, and I call this an impact to my leadership style and how I've approached it at Suma is if you think about the old way of operating IT, what we find ourselves doing is we start to use that technical jargon heavily in conversations with people that are not in IT. And what you end up doing is creating barriers and more of a black box syndrome.
Yeah.
And so in your conversation with peers and people that are not in IT, it starts to become that black box. And so you start to lose people in the conversation, and you start to cause trust issues, becomes a bit of a black box. And when you want to have partners in going to, say, a particular direction, getting support, you lose that over time, that old way of operating. I believe in what I've done at Suma, which is much harder, is being transparent. I'm going to make sure that I put it in terms that are going to relate to my audience. They are going to start with understanding. So I start with a story to explain what's important and how it relates to the people that are in the room so they can connect to it, so that anything that I'm presenting in the direction that I'm going, regardless if it's a decision or a vote or funding or whatever it might be, or getting everybody a common understanding about risk, is making it something that they can relate to. Yeah. So it becomes not an IT problem, not an Elbridge problem, but an us issue that can be resolved. And suddenly you get the wheels turning, and you get all these other grandiose ideas that come from others. They get pitched into the box.
Yeah.
I think that's significant at Suma, and I don't see it in a lot of organizations.
Yeah. No, that's really sound advice, which made me think of one last question, Albert, to put you on the spot. But I think a lot of people that are sort of mid-career would be really interested in your answer to this. So before, and we didn't spend a lot of time up front talking about your leadership history, but before you came to Suma Health, you were part of Navant. And Navant's a great system and great leaders, right? You had the benefit of learning from some really great CIO, CDOs, and you could have hung out there for a while, and maybe eventually took the top spot over time. You made a decision to sort of leave the comfort of this large health system and become a CIO of another health system, a great health system. Suma is great, so nothing negative at all. But it did take that a little bit of courage to make that jump. And so what advice would you give others who are thinking about something similar? Like, do I stay and be comfortable, or do I jump and take that senior spot?
Well, for me, there was a personal aspect. So, we had a home here in Ohio and a home in North Carolina. So, it was a personal aspect. My wife and I were deciding where we wanted to land and what we wanted to do, and the process of moving to North Carolina. And so there's a personal piece of it that she wanted to be near her dad, near the family. And I had no intentions of looking for anything. I was really happy at the launch. And she looked for me. So she found an opening. And so now I had been watching Zoom for a while. But here's what I would recommend to those is that, this is the piece I learned about Zoom too, is, it needs to be connected personally. It needs to have a positive personal impact. You need to have that piece figured out for you, whatever that is for you. And I had that. The second piece of it is, can you make a difference? What's important to you? Well, important to me would be able to make a difference in the community. And to me, I came to Suma to say, well, when you think of digital, do you think of Suma? Can I make an impact on this community, this health system? And that's what's important to me. And I felt like once I met the leadership team, I had been watching Suma for some time. I felt that I could make that difference. I connected with the executive team, and just the culture at Suma, it was so well matched.
Yeah.
So there's a personal aspect, and there's also for you career-wise, what's important to you. So if you can get those two pieces,
Yeah.
make sense.
That's good advice there, Elbridge. Hey, thanks so much for being part of EDTalks, talking a little tech with me in terms of information blocking and sharing a little bit about your leadership. So thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right, that wraps up another edition of EDTalks. Thanks for watching.